I thought your film was a cracking film.
Thank you
I
very
thought
much.
it was an amazing achievement for somebody who's done it just for passion. And I guess one of my first questions is, where did you get the inspiration?
Previously, I'd made a couple of short westerns in Arizona, and I just got hooked. I made Strong Arm of the Law in 2013, and another film, Send Me a Smile, the year later. And I just captivated by the scenery out there. The people are so friendly, and I love the Western culture. I've seen Western films, TV shows, of course, and I wanted to go out there and try and make a full-length film if I could, or a featurette. And I was inspired by Billy the Kid, stories of Billy the Kid, but thought that I probably couldn't make anything better than has already been made. So we toned the Billy the Kid character down a bit, but wanted the kid as the central character. And then we wanted it character driven, so we wanted other people to revolve around the kid. So although he's the centre, I wanted everybody to have pretty much an equal part. And a lot of inspiration from lots of other westerns that I've seen, TV shows, combination of everything really.
So has doing westerns been something which has interested you since childhood, or is it something that's come to you as a filmmaker, as an adult?
I was always intrigued by westerns. I watched them with my father growing up. In the 70s at school, I made a secret agent film, Man from U.N.C.L.E. meets James Bond. And then I did a couple of mystery sort of thrillers and suspense ones, left it for about 20-30 years, and then I suddenly thought for my 60th birthday I wanted to celebrate something and leave a legacy on YouTube or Vimeo or something. So I thought I'd love to make a little western. I'd heard this music track from Aaron Watson, Strong Arm of the Law. He gave me permission, or his management gave me permission to use the track. I'm a photographer, an amateur photographer, and I thought, well, this is perfect because I can put beautiful pictures to a lovely soundtrack which is telling the story for me pretty much. I extended the storyline a little bit, so a 5 or 6 minute music track is now a 10-12 minute short film, and I got hooked by doing that. I met a few lovely people out there and decided I'd love to go back, so I went back the following year when we took the film to a couple of festivals. And I went to the desert, the southern Arizona desert, just outside Tucson, and it was basically an actor, myself, camera, and the desert for 3 or 4 days, and we came up with Send Me Your Smile. From that, I then thought I want to make something bigger, a little bit bigger. I'd seen this Wild West town called Gammons Gulch, and they had all the sets there pretty much, and I thought, wouldn't it be good if we could get a decent story just to go and I'll make a featurette, and that's what we did.
The location, tell me about the location.
The location is just outside Benson, and it's sort of like a Wild West town. Has been used in quite a few different movies over the course of the years. The two owners live on the property in the hotel, and it's got a saloon. None of it's working, but it's got a saloon. It's got the sheriff's office and the cell, and they are working cells and can be used by the police if they get an overspill from the local community.
Did you have to pay?
Yes, we had to pay for the privilege of using the place, obviously, because they have an upkeep cost all the time. It gets quite windy, as we saw in the final scene in the film. So they have maintenance charges that they have to pay out for themselves. So we had to pay for that. But the actors, apart from travel expenses, accommodation, food, and stuff like that, they just loved to do it, and it was just terrific fun.
What about the logistics? I mean, you live in England. I think the actors. Well, are the actors English actors or from America?
All the actors in the film are Arizonans. They're all sort of local, either sort of born, bred, or have been schooled in Arizona. One of them came in from Chicago, but I think he went to Arizona University, State University there. He's done a little bit of acting, and I spotted him in a Western previously. So they're all local. They're all locals. Yeah.
Tell me how you managed to make that film. It wasn't all in one go, I guess.
Well, I was there for 5 weeks, and the film itself took about 8-9 days to shoot. And that was doing a bit of prepping beforehand, and then after the filming of it, about another, 3, 4, probably 5 months editing and getting all the colour grading right, the music, because we had to search for the music, which was a complete coincidence. I'd heard this music track on a soundtrack album, and the composer gave me permission to use it again on this particular film, on the basis that it's not going to be, distributed commercially.
Where did you get the story from? Did the writer?
Oh, the writer,
Yes.
yes, the actual writer. Well, he's Ben Bridges is his writing name, and he writes books, Western books mainly. He lives in Norfolk, so he's an English guy, and he writes Westerns stories, some of them adult Western stories as well. And I had this idea for the Billy the Kid, and bounced around a few ideas. And I just said to him, "Would you be interested in coming on board?" And he said he'd love it.
What were the greatest challenges about making this film?
There were lots of little challenges along the way. In fact, the film was nearly aborted 2 or 3 times. I think one of the biggest challenges was the pound shrinking against the dollar, because I had budgeted everything quite tightly, because I knew how much accommodation, we tried to get the best accommodation deal as we could for the actors. Had an idea of the food. Most of the characters would have had their own wardrobe. Horses had to be paid for, overstabled, so we had to factor in those sort of things. Transport costs, because the distances that we were travelling from Cottonwood, where we filmed some of the scenes up north in the cave, Cottonwood just outside Camp Verde in Arizona, and then we're down in Tucson. It's, I think, about 350 miles, and of course we're shipping people around all the time. So I budgeted it quite tightly. The pound shrunk by 10-15% in a very short, in that short leading up to the Brexit. And I thought, I just can't, this is just becoming too, because I knew how much I had, and that was it. My writer then came up, and he just said to me, he said, "How much are you short for? How much are you short for?" I said, 15%. And he said, "Well, how much is that in real money?" I said, "Well, probably about 1,500, £2,000. And he said, "How about if we let you have that £2,000, and you just put, the book will be available for Piccadilly Publishing." And I said, "That's a deal then." And it was handshake, cowboy's handshake, and no written agreement, and it's all done on trust, and that was a beautiful way to do business, isn't it?